today's video I get this black Himi Miya 56 set. This is the new set that only came out available in Canada not that long ago. It includes 8 metallic and 6 neon as well as several other colors. I got it on sale with 40% off and free shipping on Amazon, so the total was $84.30, which makes it, with 1,680 milliliters, only 5 cents per milliliter, which is a really good price. It was originally $140, but I waited until the price went way down and then jumped on the sale as soon as I could. This set includes 2 whites, which is extremely useful. All the other colors are a bonus to me that I'm showing here, and I'm showing that I already have these colors in other sets, so I'm not going to be opening them here. I'm going to be saving them as backups. I recently also wrote out all my backup numbers so I know how much milliliters I have of each color. These are the new colors. I double checked that the Peach Blossoms is identical to the fluorescent pink in the set. Now I'm spraying some isopropyl alcohol in each one, stirring them up and taking off the lids. It's a little tricky removing the lids. If you have trouble, simply put it near a light so it can heat up, or a blow dryer or something, just for a second to warm up the glue on the edges, then it comes off a lot easier. I'm using a palette knife to put it in these full pans I had prepped before, and now I have all these new ones. I didn't open the neon pink because, like I said, it's the same as the old Peach Blossoms color. Here I'm showing the swatches here in my sketchbook. I also made swatches on white paper separately to keep in with my swatch set later. And I make some swatches on black paper. It turns out that these neon gouaches are actually quite opaque, which is super exciting because all the other neon colors I have are watercolors and are extremely translucent. Most of my neon colors in anything is not opaque, although I'd still like to get some good neon acrylics at some point. But for now, these neon gouaches are brilliant because it's going to allow me to do different color mixes and very bright colors that I couldn't do before. Although I've been relying on Peach Blossoms and the brightest of my other colors, there's nothing like the neon yellow to get special mixes. The other neon colors will be useful as well. Here you can see I'm mixing the colors to form little color wheels. They are my little circle palettes, which I can do any color in any order I want, but I can show the transition, the gradation of the colors. When I go back in later, I make sure to put some isopropyl on the thing to make sure that it's not going to grow mold. I mix the orange and the yellow to make a more yellowish, a more yellow gold color. And I'm just going to show it in here because I think that's also a really useful color to have. I'll ask you to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you're really enjoying my content. Now I'm going to work on making sure that I have good reference. I invented a species of butterfly. I used the symmetry tool in Procreate, put it on my computer, and printed it out at different sizes. I then cut that out to make a maquette. I used hot glue and paper, and I put things together so that I have a 3-dimensional paper model. Maquettes can be made also of clay and other things, but they're just models that are somewhat roughly made, so you can look at them as an artist to draw things at different angles. Maquettes aren't strictly necessary, but they do help you visualize things in 3-dimensional space, and they're kind of nice to have. I might actually paint in this maquette later. Here I'm using the neon paints on black paper. Because of their wonderful opacity, I'm able to paint on black paper with them, and actually they get more opaque after they dry versus when they're wet, which I'd done all the tests for with the swatching and everything earlier, so I found that out. I'm mixing them together to get different colors and tones, and once it's dry I'm actually going to go on top to do the final details in colored pencil. As you can see, I'm working on this butterfly I invented by making much more custom and unique colors. I'm bringing in some white Himi Miya gouache to add to the mix to get some of the tones here. I've been doing a series of wonderful pets that can also function as familiars, and I'm going to use them for various things I'm working on. I want them to be able to have multiple color varieties for fun and variety's sake. And so this is a neon Himi butterfly, and this is just one example color variety. That way I can reuse the maquette as well. I actually used thicker paper to cut out the legs, and I used much thinner regular printer paper for the main wings and body. I'm using a dark gray and a black colored pencil here, as well as a white colored pencil. Now I'm moving on to the metallics. I scrape off the excess paint off of the tops of each one. I'm only using half pans in the case of the metallics, and I made sure to already pre-label each of these half pans. I'm spraying isopropyl alcohol again, once again, to mix it up. The reason why I spray the isopropyl alcohol is to prevent the formation of unwanted mold growth. I find it works exceptionally well if I spray them once a week, and I spray some initially when I first open and mix them together. The other thing I do is make sure to completely clean off the palette knife and the knitting needle I'm using between colors. I'm making sure to carefully fill things up and clean everything off. The other thing I'm doing here is having a special jar for metallic and sparkling paints. By using a special jar for metallic and sparkly paints and letting the water dehydrate or getting rid of it elsewise, you can use a palette knife to scrape up those sparkles and reuse them to make your own custom metallic paints. I did that with some of the paints shown in the palette above. I'm working on every single color here, but when I do the circle, I cut out the pearl white and the silver because I decided just doing 6 is a more balanced way. And I don't have any of my palette circles set up for more than 6 colors unless I do the double layered, which ends up being 12 in the between colors. Putting them away, back in the place. I did a few other things, but the video was corrupted and blurry, so I couldn't include it in, even though I did actually record it. I'm doing a few color mix options here. I ended up using nickel azo yellow, which is actually a really high quality one, mixed in with the gold to make a really bright yellow gold. Nickel quin azo yellow is my favorite one. Although I almost feel like I wasted some of the highest quality watercolor here, it makes a really beautiful gold paint, so I can't really regret it, and I will eventually use it up. And of course it doesn't really go bad, so it's good. I'm doing these 2 little circles. One is going to go in my new palette circle book, and the other one is a gift for someone. And I am doing all the between colors as well. I'm using this temporary palette paper. I intend to re-wet the excess paint on this paper and eventually reuse it over time. And I find that one of the greatest things about watercolor gouache is you don't have to waste them very much because they can be re-wet and reused, which is the unfortunate downside of acrylic paint, is that once it dries, it's dried. So even though there are advantages and disadvantages to different sorts of paints, I think gouache and watercolors have become some of my favorites of all, especially gouache. Boop. Another in my series of beautiful animals that could be familiars that have many color varieties is the comet-tailed microraptor. I'm making a maquette here by hot gluing on a wire. The original maquette wasn't good enough because I put hot glue on the wings but not a wire, and that ended up making them unable to bend. So I made a second smaller maquette with the wire that can bend. Here I am bending it into a pose and then using it to draw. I use a very dark brown paper here so that I can try different things. I'm going to be using the pearl metallic colors here. I opted not to use the special color I mixed with the Azo Quin Gold, and I'm working things out with this Derwent Drawing White pencil. The Faber-Castell dust-free eraser allows me to erase any colored pencil extremely well, so I make liberal use of it for things like this. Here I am using the pearl metallic colors to paint in. I'm actually using a filbert brush I like a lot here, so that I can do more soft rounded edge shapes and feather-like shapes. I'm going to mix in some other Himi Miya gouache, some black and some very dark brown mixes I made previously, as well as some really dark purple, in order to get the dark shadows so that there's some contrast in this artwork here. I'm also using the color of the paper itself, and at the end I add a little bit of outlining so that things can stand out a little bit better from the background of the page. I'm working on a nice coloration that uses a majority of the metallic colors, but as you can see I do mix some custom colors up. Using dark purple and the metallic blue and a little bit of the metallic purple, I can mix up a dark metallic blue shade, for example. This color here is the bronze color. I'm also making sure to do some different patternings in on the feathers. There's supposed to be a large variety of different patternings and colors for comet tails, some of which are very metallic and some of which are not metallic. There's supposed to be a large variety. They're kept as pets on my main world of Vatar, and I look forward to doing many different versions going forward. Another note about maquettes is that you can put lighting on them to look at different lighting scenarios, and light scales to any size. So if you make a clay model of a dinosaur and put it out in the sunlight, you can actually see what the sunlight would look like at any scale or size. Here I'm adding those final dark outlines in order to add a better contrast and more detailing. And here's the final artwork. Once again, that's all for this video. If you like my videos, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to all notifications so you will know when a new video comes up. I aim for new videos every Wednesday, but sometimes life happens and things are delayed. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you with another one very soon.